a recent grad of VSU. Oh, very much. Thank you. Thank you. Just want to.
Don't you love when that happens? You're like going in.
Sorry.
All right, wonderful. All right, so how many of you are here are seniors? Almost everybody. How many of you here are entrepreneurs? You want to start a business, you have an idea for a business or other things like that? All right, cool. So I was sitting in your seat just a year ago. I was a senior at Virginia Commonwealth University. I was studying biomedical engineering, and I was bored, right? Late night classes, working my ass off, trying to do something worthwhile, right? And so, like, I can really commiserate to where you guys are now, trying to figure out what am I going to do after graduation. So one of my biggest problems when I was at VSU was I had all these great ideas to experiment with, right? But I really didn't have the means to experiment. I didn't have a laboratory. Every single professor I talked to about my ideas kind of laughed me off, said, I don't really do that. I don't really have the resources to really do that. Other things like that. But you know, you have all these ideas burning inside you, so you want to start something. So what I like doing, my core purpose as an entrepreneur, is to build communities that serve as tools for other people to start businesses. I love doing that. I love putting people together, creating teams, and figuring stuff out and building stuff. So what I did during school was I started establishing this laboratory. So this is a science laboratory. And our aim is to revolutionize science. So what's amazing about having your own lab is that I can pop on over, do an experiment, and I have the ability to do anything that any laboratory here has. You don't need a degree to participate. There's no ranking, there's no like undergrad, graduate, professor, nothing like that. It's all self-motivation, it's all intrinsic motivation, right? And then there's no IP taking. So one of the biggest problems at any school is that a percentage of your intellectual property, a percentage of whatever idea that you come up with is taken, right? I have a lot of different schools. Now this intellectual property policy changes depending on the different schools, but you gotta be careful a little bit when you practice your idea at a university. So one of the great things about this laboratory is that it gave me the ability to experiment. So currently, science is represented by academia or industry. All you guys are in here, the engineering building, the technology building. This is academia, right? It's really hard to get funding for things. I heard you guys talking about like funding for different ideas earlier. No positions, like if you want to go to graduate school or other things like that, it's very hard to get in. And there's restrictions on intellectual property. Same thing is true for industry, right? They dictate what you make. So where is that center ground for you building science ideas, building products, being entrepreneurial and whatnot? Well, enter Indie Lab. So right now we have $20,000 worth of equipment, we have fume hoods, glassware, and analytical instruments. All of this stuff, we're working with companies around the area to make this happen, and it's really, really great. But I made this tool not just to make this community. You know, I made this space, this laboratory, not just to make it. It's like this building. Like if you had this building built and you didn't have any classes in it, what's the point of the building, right? It's just a space. So the thing that I'm doing within the laboratory is my main idea. It's what I'm really passionate about. But you have to go about building the structure, the resources for yourself before you start attempting your idea. So this is ViV Design Group. So as Benedict mentioned, I am the COO of ViV Design Group, and we are a technology company that is working on revolutionizing the building industry. And I was talking to a couple people around here, and the entire story behind ViV is an interesting one. So what happened with ViV was I was biking along Richmond sidewalks, right? And you guys know sidewalks are just miserable places. They're cracked, they're broken, bricks are out of there. And I was biking along and I flip over my bike handlebars and I break my front 2 teeth in half. So these are fake. I know a good dentist, which is a good thing. There's like dentists in the family. And so he rebuilt my smile, but he got me thinking about this problem. Like, this problem is pervasive, right? And so I started thinking, well, what if we did something to rethink sidewalks? So initially, this was way back last year, we were like, well, what if we took trees, which are the main reason for this to happen, and instead lifted them off the sidewalk and grew them upside down? Sounds ridiculous, right? Sounds a little crazy. Like phototropism, the branches would grow up, like gravitropism, the roots would go down, like it would be like a bush in midair. And then we started looking into it and the actual like physical characteristics required for something like that, and we were like, no way. No, the roots need so much dirt above the pavement. So we started thinking about the pavement, like why do we have these surfaces that are just like static, like concrete and stuff like that, right? Like, you guys walk around all the time and trip over the bricks. I'm sure you're like going out and the girls in the room like in high heels and just cry. So we started thinking about plants. Started thinking about these trees and how, go back, okay. Okay. So we started thinking about tapping into the growth potential of plants, right? So plants grow no matter what. They grow towards nutrients no matter what. So, like, it's antithetical, it's complete opposition to have trees in cities. It doesn't make sense, right? You're basically choking these trees, and then the trees are in fact destroying the pavement. So what we thought was, why don't we create a viscoelastic pavement? Why don't we create a pavement that deforms, that bends, that warps, you know? Rather than fighting against these trees, why don't we work with them and rethink what cities could be like? So tapping into the growth potential of organisms as a means to rebuild cities. So what we ended up doing was thinking about asphalt. So this right here is a picture of asphalt roofing shingles, right? We started thinking about the main coverings of cities, which is asphalt, how it's impermeable, how it prevents organisms from growing, and how the main reason that cities use trees is for stormwater runoff and retention, right? So the main cost to cities and the main reason that they have like urban development and like tree planting and other things like that is because it saves them money on water runoff in the long run. And so all this research, all these other things set us up for, well, what if we had something that was like permeable? Something that we could replace roofs, replace roadways with. And we decided to tackle roofing shingles first, right? Because it's an easier industry to get into. No one really wants people repaving roadways all the time. So we came up with this concept of tapping into the biological potential of mushrooms as a means to replace asphalt. And now everybody's like, double take, like mushrooms. I had to call my parents and tell them after graduation that I was growing mushrooms in my basement. And they said, come home this instant. But when I started talking to them about it, it kind of makes sense. So all of you are resting your elbows on a wooden surface, right? Pretty much. And this wooden surface is tapping into biological potential of organisms as a means to grow something that we use as building material. So the same exact concept can be applied to mycelium, or the root structure of mushrooms. So this is our tile. So what we're building it as is a platform technology. It uses mycelium, the root structure of mushroom, to grow something that's stronger pound for pound than concrete, right? The cell wall of fungi in general is made of chitin, which is a biopolymer, the second most common biopolymer. And it's found in exoskeletons of bugs and crustaceans and other things like that. It's extremely hard and durable and long-lasting. So what we do is we basically add in agricultural waste in the form of cellulose, corn stalks, lignin, paper byproducts, and a little bit of calcium carbonate, and we use that as a growth material for a mushroom. This mushroom grows out and fills this entire thing, forms a nice little tile right there. And what's amazing about this when we compress it is that it exhibits the same characteristics of concrete, asphalt, brick, or ceramic, depending on how we mix it and how we add in the substrate. So what's astounding is that this kind of technology, we're now experimenting with embedding it in rooftops. We have a trial study in townhomes. Now, there was a question over there earlier where somebody asked me, how do you get funding for this, right? How are you actually doing this? Like, who are you? How does this really work? So this is me. What's up, guys? I'm Elliot. I'm down to earth, and I want this to be like interactive. So if you guys have any questions, please interject. And this is more about the general idea of entrepreneurship and less about my specific businesses. Because I'm more focused on what you guys are doing. Yeah, go for it.
So you said that was the ViV technology company you developed for the ceramic or the
Yeah, so Indie Lab is a laboratory, right? And I needed a laboratory in order to start, so I had to go about creating this space, this resource. And then ViV is really my baby. It's my product idea, it's what I've been working on, it's what I've been selling to people. So this is me, and I do, as evidenced by like what I was talking about before, I do a lot of stuff. This is all my stuff. Like everybody does a lot of stuff. Everybody does a lot of different things, but I like getting involved with other people. Like I said before, my passion is creating communities, and so I'm involved in all sorts of different communities. I'm a Q-tip aficionado, so like I can talk about that too. But I like guest write for different things. I'm a University Innovation Fellow. I do grant research. Yeah.
What's a VCC?
It's the Venture Creation Competition. So that's everybody's taking pictures. That was a competition at VSU. So I competed in 3 years and placed every single year. I got first my junior year, got second and third this past year. And all of that, really, I like snuck it under the radar. You were only supposed to have one entry, but I was working with multiple teams. I really enjoy helping other people grow their ideas by establishing these teams and these communities, right? And so one of the first things that I tell everybody is that ideas don't matter, right? And you guys are like brimming with ideas. You're seniors, you're about to launch out into the world, but I'm sorry, like ideas don't matter. Ideas are a dime a dozen. You write something on a piece of paper and forget about the piece of paper. You come back years later and you're like, oh my God, like that floss thing, the floss picker, I thought of that first, right? Or you watch like Shark Tank and you're like, I could do better. I could do that, right? Well, I'm here to tell you that ideas, if they're in your head, get them out there. They don't matter if they're in your head or on a piece of paper. You gotta start experimenting and start doing that. So this is the part one to entrepreneurship, like in general, right? So what is an entrepreneur? What do you guys think an entrepreneur is? Raise your hand. Somebody, anybody. Over there, first one.
Someone who's starting a business?
Somebody starting a business. What do you think an entrepreneur is?
Somebody who's willing to go out on the limb to take risks and take journeys to get ahead on what they want to do.
Cool, takes risks. What else? Anybody else?
state of mind.
State of mind. What else? Anybody else? Anybody else? Yeah, you got another one.
Their own boss.
Their own boss. Okay, all really, really good things. Now, I think entrepreneur is a funny French word. It doesn't mean all that much. Oh, I was gonna have something that was talking. Is this gonna play?
You good?
Oh, no.
Always does that.
That's fine. All right, so an entrepreneur, funny French word, doesn't mean all that much. You give it the defining characteristic, right? Whoever the person is that's practicing this idea, that's experimenting, that's going out there and doing things, it's you. And so you define yourself as however you want to be. Entrepreneur is this weird catch-all phrase. And really, what I found to a lot of different people is it translates into entrepreneur. You want to be something, right? You're aspiring to be something. And what's incredible about this entrepreneur is that people end up talking about all these different ideas. They're like, well, I'm thinking about doing this. I'm thinking about doing that, right? And they don't actually focus and hone in and actually take that first step. I can't count the number of times a business student has approached me and said, hey, I have this great idea for an app. Well, number one, my brain shuts down at that point. I'm like, oh God. Number two, what I normally ask them is, Well, what kind of technical skills do you have? Like, have you started building it? And they're like, no. But like it's this amazing idea, great market potential. I'm like, so have you found a team yet? Have you found somebody else that's working on it? And they're like, no. But like, I thought you could help. And I say, hey, back up, man. Like, if you want to do something, you got to go out and first do it. You got to prove it before you go asking people for resources and whatnot. It's a part of the value exchange, which is something that I'll talk about in a little bit. So this bragging, this kind of great idea, and you tell everybody about your great idea, you talk about your great idea, right? It's called symbolic self-completion. And there's this study, they took 63 people, right? And they asked them 4 different ways about their ideas or something that they aspired to be. And what they found is that people actually felt the same response through thinking about doing something and talking about doing something as actually doing it, right? And so this is kind of like this counterintuitive, crazy, messed up kind of thing, where the more you talk about something, the more you think about doing something, the less you'll actually do it, So what I always tell somebody immediately when they come up to me and they say they have this idea is I immediately give them an experiment, something to go and test, something to go and try. Don't talk about it, don't brag about it, don't tell me about all these things that you think about doing. I don't care, honestly. Go out and try it out. Because your baby is ugly. Everybody's idea, they think of it as their baby. It's like little coddling infant, right? What no one wants to hear is that your baby is ugly. And to be honest, most babies are pretty ugly. My babies, Indie Lab, ViV, pretty ugly right now. Behind the scenes, pretty ugly. But you don't see that until you start experiencing it, until you start fixing it, until you start doing it. So the biggest thing that I can tell anybody before they start is that your baby is ugly. Now either find a prettier baby or go fix it. Go find a way to make it better. So this leads me into 100 ideas, right? So I do this exercise for all sorts of different clients. A lot of people ask me how I like fund things if I don't really have startup capital yet, if I don't really have like sales or other things like that. Well, I do consulting. I go around to people and I ask them what they need and I try to provide it, right? And it's a means to garner skills and it's a means to kind of get out in the community, meet other entrepreneurs and help them out. So these 100 ideas or so. What I normally do with clients is I approach them, and this is just proof how cheap ideas are. And the very first thing I do whenever they have an idea, whenever they have something they need help with, I come up with 100 ideas around it. So these are like a little example of some of the different ideas that I came up with for clients. But that kind of process I do in a day. And it should be something pretty easy for you guys to do. Take some sticky notes, put it up on the wall. This is a skill anybody should be able to have, right? It's this creativity that was really easy when you were a kid, right? You take a pencil and try to figure out the different ways you can use a pencil. I can be Pinocchio, I could be like a devil, I could be like narwhal, or other things like that. And you can come up with 100 ideas super, super, super fast. Which is to say, ideas are really, really cheap, right? I recommend that you guys practice this. I was thinking about building something like this into this, but coming up with 100 ideas takes an hour or more, and we don't really have time. But you guys can ask me about this process a little bit later. So part 2, people matter, right? Ideas don't, but people really, really, really matter. Look around you. So everybody take a look. These classmates of yours, brilliant people for being in this room and listening to me, of course. But outstanding individuals in their field and from Virginia State. Amazing professor. These people are the ones that are going to be pushing the future later on. Make friends, make allies, work together on different things. You guys are all friends here. And the people around you really, really matter, so you should take notice. One of my friends, Spencer Ingram, he's the founder of a nonprofit that helps people build things. And one of the words that I also really don't like, I don't like entrepreneur. I think it's this weird word. I also don't like startups. So what's a startup? Guys, what do you think a startup is?
A company that's in its beginning phase.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very technical description. What else? Anybody else?
Isn't it something that you just like, let's just put it together and call it?
Yeah, that could be it. What else?
Would it be a testing phase?
Yeah. It's an experimentation kind of thing. What else? An idea?
What were you begging for funding?
Just begging for funding. Yeah. So what I think these communities that I'm building should do, right? These communities of people, this kind of as a microcosm of a community, you should start people. You should help people grow. You know, one of the things that people always approach me with is they say, "Hey, I'm working on my startup." And I say, "Are you working on your startup, or are you working on like a side project?" Because those kind of hobbies that you have working on, you know, at home, in the back of your mind, maybe you're making something for a friend, maybe you're like knitting something, maybe you're, I don't know, maybe you're like painting something, or you're like making a decal, or other things like that. Those kind of hobbies are what can become future businesses. Those kind of personality traits, those habits, those kind of odd quirks that make you you, all of